Hi, I'm Lennon. The team in the dream, the team in the dream. You've got your dream. We've got the team that can help you live your dream. In my early days, I was struggling. I was struggling because I wanted to build a team. I had a dream, and I wanted to build a team so that I could live my dream. And I remember I had some friends that lived up in Idaho, and I was living in Utah at the time, and I didn't have enough money to drive up to Idaho, but I remember thinking, I need to go. They're my friends. I need to go. They've promised that they want to live their dream. So I scraped up the money, put some gas in the car, and drove to Idaho. And they didn't have anybody. They decided to go to the movie. They did invite me to go to the movie. But I said, no, I'm chasing my passion. I'm going to live my dream. So I started to drive back home. And as I started driving across southern Idaho, I was discouraged. I was starting to cry. I was beginning to wonder, could this work for me? I knew it worked for other people, but could it work for me? I remember in the middle of the night, pulling over off in a farm field, parking my car. I got out of my car, I got up on the hood, and I leaned up against the windshield. And I kind of looked up in the stars, and I guess I kind of had a talk with God. I remember pleading, will this ever work for me? Is this for me? Why doesn't anybody want to listen to me? After a while, I got back in my car, and I began to drive back home. And as I got to a town called Ogden, Utah, which was just a little over an hour from my home, I pulled into a gas station to fill up my tank. And as I was filling up my tank and sad and not paying much attention to anything that was happening around me, so I barely noticed the car that pulled into the gas station as I was there. Here it is about midnight now, and I'm filling up my gas tank, and when I finish, I put the gas cap on, and then I looked up and realized that in a little gas station just outside Ogden, Utah, midnight, I looked up at the man and said, Dad, what are you doing here? I went over and I hugged my father, and I started crying. And I said, Dad, I don't know if this will ever work for me. He looked at me and said, you're having trouble with belief. I said, yes, Dad. He said, well, do you believe that this will work for me? I said, I know it can work for you, Dad. I just don't know if it'll work for me. He says, if we work tighter as a team, do you think it can work for us? I said, yes, Dad. I remember getting in my car and my father taking the lead. And for the little more than an hour drive, I remember clearly as if it was yesterday as I looked at the two tail lights on his car. I followed those tail lights home that night. I followed those tail lights all the way to personal financial freedom. Whose taillights are you following? I thank God for a dad that lived his life in such a way that his taillights were worthy to follow. Whose taillights are you following? Who's your mentor? I began by saying it's the team in the dream. What team are you a part of now that's helping you stay focused to live your dream? I love this team. I love this team. I choose to be a part, and I hope you do too.